In this video, we're going to focus on how to create a donut chart, but also with the input button here on click. So the moment we put in some new values, like 100 here and update, you can see now it starts to change. And this, if we would do in here 50 and maybe this one 25, you'll see here consistently it changes. Refresh, we go back to the original. And this is basically something we're going to explore how to connect them together. In this video, we're going to focus on the question, one of the viewers' question, which is how to change donut chart data on button click in Chartjs. And this question was asked, and somehow on YouTube, I was not able to find your comment anymore. It was suddenly disappeared, but I was able to retrieve the link you gave regarding to Stack Overflow, where you also had the same question, how to change the Chartjs data on button click. And this was asked by Abhishek, and let's look at this. So I saw your code here, and I'll be honest with you, your code is indicating that you probably don't understand Chartjs very well, which is fine. That would mean that I would highly recommend you to watch some of my other videos where I break it down, and I will make here one so you have an understanding of it. And I highly recommend you to search my other videos as well, where you can find and learn how to do Chartjs professionally. So first of all, I'm going to grab your code, and we're going to convert your code into a professional structure that I'm using consistently, which is also in line with the Chartjs documentation. So, alright, first of all, let's go to Chartjs, and I'm using Chartjs 3.4.1, which is the latest as of now. And in here, all I want is, why I saw this here, we don't need to do this, because probably you get this, you almost have a similar chart here. But I want to use your code. So what I do get is this part here. We grab this and we get the Chartjs library. So in here, I'm going to paste this in here. And then I will also get the link of the Chartjs library, just put it here down and paste. And what I saw in here, you got a response from someone who said this, which is correct if you know exactly where to work on it. However, if you really study your code here, you have some questionable items. And I say, why is this here? I do not know why this is here. This probably would not have any value for you to do that there. And I saw this one here, and we will work on that. So don't worry, we're going to structure it nicely. And to do this, I'm going to get the script. And in here, I'm going to grab your code. Later on, we're going to work with the input and the button, so don't worry about that. I'm going to grab all your code here, and then we're just going to remove everything what's excess, and everything what's not necessary, we're going to adjust as well. Alright, we have this here, but before I even do something, I want to give here a class to enforce a specific height and width for the chart. Since you have a pie chart, we need to make sure that the class is, or that we have a class. So I'm going to give it a class box here, or chart box as a class, and then here, we're going to give it a fixed width to avoid it to scale into infinity. So we say width. Because it's a pie chart, it's like a square shape, so we say you're 400 pixels more than enough. I saw you got 180 pixels, which is fine as well, but I'll take 400, so it's easy to view on the screen as well. So let's, if I save this right now and then refresh, let's see what we get. We get nothing at all, apparently, because probably there you have, as you can see, incorrect syntax. There are some mistakes in here. And probably have some missing parts as well. So what we're going to do is, this part here, absolutely not needed. Remove this. We don't need that. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to break it down in 3 blocks. There are 3 core blocks, and this is why I recommend you to check my resource section in the description, where I discuss this as well. And also I highly recommend you to check some other videos that I have. Here we're going to do 3 blocks. The setup block. We have here the configuration block. And we have here the render initialization block. Alright, these are the 3 blocks that Chartjs documentation is starting to work with more and more. So knowing this is very, very essential. So in the setup block, basically you put in everything what is from your data. You can see here, everything between these curly braces. We're going to grab this all, cut it out, paste this in here, but before we paste, we say constant data equals, and then curly braces, semicolon, and in here we're going to paste this in. Alright. So once we have this, what I want to do here is I want to just get this all organized. Let's see here, we have this and we have that. Alright, there we are that. Here I can see we have here, these are constants. but you're working here. So if you have these constants, it would mean you're going to work with a multi-level donut chart. So you have two rings, but this is not the way to do it. So I'll show you later on as well, because you have this mistake here. That's not acceptable as well. All right, so we have this one here now. Let's see, am I missing anything here just to be sure? No, I just have like this. All right, we have this here. I guess this is the only one, this, and there we are. So we have this nicely indented. We should maybe have one more, delete one more indentation, but it doesn't matter. So right now we have all of this, and there we are. That's the final one that closes everything. This here is not allowed. You have this double here, because I understand this is a constant, but they are two separate ones, so I'm going to show you later on what we need to do with this. All right, next one, config block. In the config block, we're going to make a constant. We say here config equals, and then here semicolon again, curly braces. Here we're going to grab the three building blocks. These are the type, data, and the options. Cut this out, paste this in here, and I'm going to just give this a proper indentation. All right, one more indentation here. Then here this, enter. All right, for the data, we can put a comma only. The reason why we do comma here now is because the data is equal. ES6, this is the JavaScript 6 version in the somewhere in 2015 plus, has indicated that we can use a shorthand which is data. If data equals data, which is in this case because our data is this, then we can just use only one word here. This is the shorthand, saving time and being more dry basically. Dry means keep your code clean and do not repeat yourself. Alright, so we have this one here. Then we have the scales here. I've removed everything from the scales. We don't need anything in the scales because you're working with a donut chart. Donut chart doesn't work with the scales. We don't need any grid lines, etc., etc. So we've got this here now. Alright, final part here is constant, and this constant we're going to grab basically this part here. And then we say here my chart. I saw your canvas ID was also named my chart, so it's exactly the same here. Equals, and then here pay attention, we type in new chart with capital C, parentheses. Here we use curly braces, but here parentheses, very important because we're making here a constructor. Enter, enter, in here, and there we are. So we're going to put in this here, put it in there, comma, and then we say here config, which is the variable or the constant referring to this. So this means that this is dependent on whatever is in here, and this block is dependent on the data, which is a constant, so going up here. Very, very important. Alright, after we have to work with this one as well, because right now if you would delete everything, or if we delete now all your old codes, what we had, and we have only this, we save this, we still get an error. Data 1 is not defined, data 2 is not defined. Alright, let's define these. So first of all, this is not allowed, so don't do this. We have only one array here. We don't have to put in brackets here. Why? This will be an array by default, meaning constant here, data 1 equals, as you can see here, array this. You only would do this, or maybe this is the one you wanted to do. I'm not sure, that you have two datas here, and you just want to put in here this. So that might be even the thing. So I realized that maybe you don't want to have a multi-level donut, but you only wanted to have two values here. So let's say here, I guess this is what you wanted to do. You want to have here, let's say value 100. Let's remove this here, and this would be value 25. So that's probably what you wanted to do, and then you say here this comma data 2. Sorry, so now I figured out what you wanted. This is probably what you wanted to do. This amount here, if you're using JavaScript, single quotations. No double quotations. This is better. Alright, save this here, refresh. There you are. So now we have our data here. As you can see, now it works here. Beautiful. What we can do more, if you want to do a little bit nicer, I like this a lot, is here to do a cut out. Then we say here cut out, we make percentage 90%. Save that here, refresh. Alright, so we have a nice ring. Beautiful. So what are we going to do next? Basically, it's the following here. What you wanted to do was you want to have put an input here. We're going to put in here an input. Input type equals number. And this will be an ID. So I'll just say here value 1 as an ID, and I don't know why there's body, sorry, that was not what I wanted. We have here value number, alright, and then we have another one as well. We're going to put another one which is number, and this is value 2. And what I assumed was you want to insert the number and update the existing value in here. So if I save this now, we should have 2 items here. Alright, and then we have to push this. To do this here, what I want to do here, just extra, because you can see these things are so next to each other. Just give it a padding. So say padding bottom 5 or 10 pixels. Should be more than enough. Alright, so you have some space between that looks a bit more professional. Then what I want to do here is I want to create a button, and this button basically triggers our on click, or basically triggers whatever the function that we want to have. So we can say here the following here is button, and then here update chart. I'll just give it the ID of update chart. And what we're going to do here is the following update charts. There we are. So if I save this now, we have this. Oh, update. All right. Now we have this here. All right. It doesn't work yet. Let's connect this. What you need to do here is you have to connect it in JavaScript. You need to understand here in this case. If you struggle with this, you have to understand JavaScript. But I think you had this correctly done. Let me double check here. Where's your JavaScript here? Document get element ID. Alright, this is a way to do it. I would say here in this case, we're going to do the following. I'm going to create a function here. This function will be called update chart as well. I'm just giving the same number. Now in here, you can grab the following here. What we can do here is, I'll just do here. We can do a constant here or inside, doesn't matter here right now. So I'll just put it outside for sake of simplicity. We're going to grab the ID name here. We say constant. Then we say here value 1 equals get a document, document dot get element by ID. What's the ID name? Value 1. Alright, and then we can say here dot value if you want, that's fine. Or we remove this, we just refer to the item itself, and then afterwards we can just pinpoint them here. Number 2 is this, value number 2. Alright, so this is the ID name only. We didn't put in here dot value. We need to do this later on, we'll just put it in here. So in here, we want to do first, what we want to do here is the following. We want to click on the button, and we click on this ID button. Basically what we're doing here is we're going to communicate HTML with JavaScript. Because right now JavaScript and HTML are two independent programming languages, so they don't talk with each other. So how can we communicate with each other? This is the following what we're going to do here. We say here, we have to say the constant, first of all, get the ID name of update chart, which is also eventually a function name, but that's alright. But don't get confused with this, by the way. So we say constant update chart equals document dot get element by ID. Here, single quotation, we get the ID name, which is update chart. And then when we say here, we're going to grab this update chart. I say dot add event listener. And here we say the following. We want to trigger, the moment we click on this button on HTML, we want to trigger something in JavaScript. What we're going to trigger is, or how will it be triggered? By a click. So we say click, comma, and then what are we going to trigger is this function. To make sure that this function will not be a conflict, because we have this many times here, I would say update chart, or update pie. Was it? Or Doughnut chart. I'm just giving it a different function name to avoid conflicts. Alright, then we say here, when we click on this, we trigger this function here. Alright, so now we have this here, we can double check how this works. We say console log. Alright, and then we just say here, hello. Save that, go back here, refresh. So if you click on this, you can see now, we press this hello, alright, so that works. So what we want to do now is basically the following. We want to make sure it can read our values here. So we're going to grab this. We can do this one here. I say here dot value save this and see if this works now. If I refresh now, and this is value 1, so that means input number 1 here. So if I put in 1 and say update, alright, value is not a function, sorry, probably we need to remove this. Or did I do it correctly? Maybe I need to do like this. Let's double check again, sorry. 1, alright, doesn't work. Like that. Alright, as you can see here, now we got this here. So we have this here that works beautifully. It can read this. So if I would say here, console log number 2, save that, if I refresh and now I do this one here, you can see one is blank, which is correct because there's no value in there, and the other one is 111. Alright, so this is basically what we're going to do here. What we're going to do, we're going to basically insert the values in here now. So let's assume here we want to have this one here, number 1. And then in here, what we're going to do is the following. We say here, we get the value, but what we need to do is we need to assign the value. And where are we going to assign the value? Well, basically we're going to assign the value in the data. So if you look at this structure, you go from chart, my chart, then we go to data, and in data, we're going to break it down. Here is data sets, data. All right. So I hope you figure this out or you understand this. But if you don't worry, just follow along. So we say my chart, which is the ID name of the canvas. And then we go here, which is the data. The data equals data. Remember, this is basically this equals data. But in reality, this here is just this matched paste in here. That's basically what it is. So if you would see it in visually, it's like this. This is basically how it looks like, where you put in here the brackets. This is basically how the structure works. So you can say data, and then you can see you will go to data sets, and then in data sets, we have the data here. All right. So that is really what we're doing. I'm going to undo everything. You don't have to copy what I did, but it was just for simplicity's sake. Oh, let's remove this here. Single quotations. All right. No, what happened? All right, there we are. So once we have this one here, we say get data dot the data sets, and the data sets is 0 because there's only one data set. This is an array. This is index 0 here. This is index 0, which is the first array. And then we want to grab here this one. We want to reassign that with a new value. Then we say data. This data is also 0 equals this value here, what we put in here. Alright, so I'm going to remove this now. Semicolon here. Enter. And then I say here my chart dot update. So we're going to update the chart here now. Because this function here will be triggered with this here. So if I save this now, refresh, put in here 10, and let's update, and there you are. You can see it starts to change, and now it's 10. Let's try it again. This is 100, and this is 25, but the moment I put in here, update, it changes, but this one here, of course, not. But the same would happen if we do this, if you press an update, what happens, it becomes automatically 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to just readjust this more. We can do the same thing here. This, we put in here data number 1, which is the value number 2. I save this now, refresh, and say 1 and 1, update, there we are. Alright, so you might say, well, wait a minute, what if I do only this, and I update, and I don't want to update this one at all. So let's refresh this here, and then only this one. So basically what we can do is the following. We can say here, in here, this should be probably have the value here, whatever you have here. And what we can do here is, I guess, let me just double check. We have to maybe reassign here the value. We will grab this one here. And what we need to do is, let me just think. So what we're going to do then is just to make sure that these data already consist of the values here. So basically what we want to do is have a default value in there. What will be the default value? Well, basically it's this. We're going to we will assign the value in here. We say this value equals what exactly it is, data 1 here. Save that. Same story here for the other one. What I'm going to do is I just move it down. And same here, value number 2 equals data number 2. Now if we save this, refresh, we get the default values here. Let's double check this. If we put in here this 55 and this one will be 11, save that, refresh, you can see. And now if you put this up here and then update, there we are. So this is basically one way to do it. What you could do as well is on change. The moment it changes, it will automatically adjust as well. Then you don't have to put in the button, because then you just unchange this part here. However, this is the way to do it, and this is how you connect them, and this is what's your issue here. Build a separate function with the update, my chart update, trigger it. Here you assign the value. So basically what you're saying is whatever is in there will be overruled with the new values that we have here. So this is basically how to do it. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section below. However, I highly recommend you to check my other videos so you have a more better understanding. I cover a lot of different topics about Chartjs, and I can truly see based on your code that you are a beginner, which is fine. However, make sure you study more, because we all started somewhere, and I started as well absolutely at the very beginning. But study more and practice more Chartjs, you will understand it very quickly. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in Chartjs, check out in the description box the link directing to my Chartjs course, where you can learn everything about Chartjs. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.